Hey, this is Kyle from Anastasier's River. I'm going to be working on part 2 of the boat repair video series today. It should be removing the carburetor and the pull start mechanism, and I might even get to the flywheel. I think it's a 13 millimeter. So I forgot to mention, once you get these two nuts off of the studs for the carburetor primer right here, which operates this little flapper and pushes down on the primer, you have to pull this clip right there. Pull that clip out. And then you can pull this, and it gives you more room to jimmy this around. Forgot to pull the fuel line. There's a minor ecological disaster down there, but I think it should be okay. Now my hands just smell like ass. So once again, I'm going to take these nuts and put them on the studs. These are for the carburetor. Don't want to lose them. Okay, so now I'm going to remove the starter mechanism, the manual start mechanism. Maybe 10 millimeter. Oh well. Alright, so I got the 3 bolts that hold this guy on. This is still attached, so I have to pull this off. Try to get that. Pull that off, and then this whole piece will come off. Okay, so to make this easier for pulling this off, I don't like fiddling with the fuel filter here, so fiddling. I'm going to just cut this zip tie and pull the fuel line, and then the whole thing will come off. I have plenty of zip ties. And off it comes. So now we get to the real party, which is taking the flywheel off. I got a new flywheel off of eBay. So now is the moment of truth. if I can find a spot for this. Okay, so now is the moment of truth to see if it will fit. Packaged well, so they got that going for them. He threw in a free starter. I say free. He gave me a starter. Said there were some problems with it, but it looks better than the one I have, so I'm going to bust it loose on the bottom, take a look at the brushes, and hopefully I can use the brushes on mine. So we now have 2 starters. And this is the flywheel. So if you look, I got a little damaged in shipping, but hopefully that won't affect anything. The reason I'm replacing the starter is because, the flywheel, is because the flywheel that I have, one of the magnets is completely loose and the other one is cracked in half. So that's not good. So we got a new starter. Andy threw in we got a new flywheel. Andy threw in a starter. So carb removed, starter out, new flywheel. Just gotta, it's this one bolt you gotta take off, and it's a tapered crankshaft. So if you look directly in here, see how it's tapered? So it's a press fit. Once I take that bolt off, I'm probably gonna have to go grab my pullers from my other toolbox and pull this off by pressing into the shaft. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. For this crankshaft bolt, I've got to use a larger ratchet. I don't want to break my 1/4 inch. For most of this stuff, it's just really low torque, so I can use my 1/4 inch, but I'm going to bump it up to my 1/2 inch set. Remember, always put your bolts back in the block. Looks like it's 18mm. Normally what I would do is I would hook up my air compressor and hit this with an impact wrench, but I don't really feel like doing that. So I'm going to try this. I'll probably have to end up using my impact wrench though, but that's a few more steps than I want to do. Impact wrench. Something just now. Before I turn the air compressor on so you can't hear me anymore, if you look right here, you can see what I was talking about. This is the flywheel. So that's the cracked magnet. And then, would you look at that, the other one is right next to it. So that would explain our intermittent weird spark problems. Pretty happy to see this, honestly. I mean, it sucks that I have to replace the flywheel, but if it would have been completely fine, then I would have been kind of pissed. So that is a good bad thing. Okay, let's try this again. What did I say it was? 18 millimeter? Yes. And that is why I said I would end up using the impact wrench. I'm going to try to tap it off, but most likely I'm going to have to go get my puller. Remember, the magnets are already broken on this one, or else I wouldn't be doing this. I'm just gonna get my puller. Okay. Harbor Freight tools, really great. I've used this a lot, so. Okay, so pretty simple device. It's just a standard puller. So you take some washers, so you take some washers, put them through the bolts, thread this piece through. This piece is going to press on the crankshaft and then pull up on these. So pretty simple. It should pop right off. So I was going to use the flat piece and have it press against the bolt that goes into the crankshaft, but that makes the whole thing too long, so I'm going to use this piece. And just be mindful of the threads, because that's all you want to do, is just avoid gacking the threads in the crankshaft. Right now I'm just putting them finger tight. I'll tighten them, make sure they go all the way through the threads here in a second. Yeah, and then you just take a 9/16 socket and put it on here. I'm going to use my impact wrench. You really don't need to. It should just take a couple of hits and it'll come right off. So. I'll give a couple of views. So, yep, it's just the puller. You've got it pressed up against the crankshaft. These in these holes right there. That's just the flip side threaded through. And I'm just gonna hit it a couple of times with the impact wrench and it should pop right off. Should pop right off. we go. I believe it popped. So now we'll loosen it up. Did you see that? Here we have the broken magnet that didn't even come off with the flywheel. So, oh yeah, it's just completely ripped off. It's been swinging around all over the place in here. So, look, this one even is coming off. Now, I'm going to keep this magnet because you can't buy spares just by themselves. You can buy the epoxy to put them, refit them on the flywheel, but you can't buy a spare magnet. So I'm going to keep this one safe just in case this happens again. I don't think it will, but you never know. So, yep, same size, same contour. Now we have a spare magnet. Just hang out in there. But yeah, this flywheel is, I wouldn't say junk. It's still got the ring gear on it. The timing magnet is in good shape. It's rusty, but like I said, this thing has been sunk. So, good flywheel. Flywheel we just pulled off. And then this one. This is now 2 magnets. No bueno. So this is the key that makes sure the flywheel goes in the same spot. Timing doesn't get aggravated. Trigger coil, you know, it's the usual stuff. I'll clean it up in here a little bit before I put the new one on, but so far so good. This is low.
Going to work?
It should work. Yeah,
We're gonna have a boat.
Here's the broken magnet if you want to play with it.
Play with it? I don't even want to touch it. It's dirty and stinky.
Okay, I'm gonna clean up my tools a little bit, and then dare I say reassembly? I think reassembly. So I just like having a clean workspace. So this is getting a little bit out of hand. I'm gonna put it all away. Always put it back in the block, right? This is the most progress I've made on this motor. Probably since I've had it. I think that's safe to say. I'm gonna take this 1000 grit, just sandpaper, and go around these, the stator and the other coils, and just kind of clean them up because they're pretty rusty. And I don't want them to interference with my new flywheel and maybe knock the magnet loose again. So I'm just going to be cleaning for a little bit. I just realized that I've had the intake chamber right here open for the entire time I've been working on it, which is generally a bad idea. I don't have a clean rag on me, and I'm going to be putting the carburetor on soon, but that's something to take note of. I usually would have covered it up. I kind of feel dumb, especially with all this sanding I'm doing. I think I'm gonna get a paper towel and cover it. Ta-da! Okay, back to sanding. Back to sanding. Alright, I think that's good. So, I'm gonna grab this new flywheel. It's very clean. Looks great. So all you have to do is pretty much make sure your keyway is lined up with your key. And that's it. So you just take the crankshaft bolt, tighten it back down. I'm going to use the impact hammer again. Since I have the manual start taken off, it makes everything else a lot easier. So I'm not going to go in complete reverse order of all the removal. I'm going to leave that off, and I'm going to get to the carburetor and the starter motors. So first I'm going to crack open the bowl on the carburetor, make sure it doesn't have any gunk in it. So this is the carburetor for the boat motor. I'm going to be rebuilding it and cleaning it. If you would like a more in-depth video of how to do that, then check out my other video. I'm going step by step and taking it all apart and cleaning it and inspecting the diaphragms and all that kind of stuff, just to make sure it's all working properly before I put it back on. I just took a little lunch break. Like I was saying, I cleaned up the carb, emptied the fuel bowl. There was a little bit of water in there. I'm gonna have to get a water separator, and there was also just some sediment and stuff. I need a new fuel filter because that one doesn't have a screen in it. It's just a little bowl, so I'll have to get another replacement screen, and then I shouldn't have any sediment problems in the fuel bowl anymore. Oh, my nose is running from my lunch. But let's put the carb back on. So there we go. We got the carb installed again. It's getting kind of bright out. Those two bolts. Now we're going to work on the starter, which goes right there. So like I said, the person or company that I bought the flywheel from sent me a starter as well, which is pretty cool because the brushes down here in my starter are bad. They're just terrible. So I'm hoping the brushes in here are pretty good, and I can just take this bottom end, put it in there, and I'll have even more spare parts for a later date. Okay, so now that we've rebuilt our starter, that's it's all back together, tightened down and everything. I'm gonna ohm check it just to make sure our brushes are in fact installed correctly. So to do an ohm check on a starter, this is just really basic. It doesn't do any like load checks or anything like that. It's just making sure there's continuity through the armature. You just take one of your leads on your voltmeter, put it to the positive terminal, and then the other one just ground it to the body. And then you spin it. And we have 0 ohms. So there's 0 resistance roughly. I mean, this isn't a great meter. So 0 resistance through the starter while it's spinning. So that means we've got good continuity. So good to go. Our rebuild was successful. Now I'm going to install it. So you take the positive from the solenoid, starters hooked up. So now I'm going to check to make sure when the starter is engaged, it's going to clearance fine with the flywheel. To do that, you just pull it up. And then, yep. It's got a little bit more play in the armature than I'd like, but I think it should be okay. So now we'll put the intake cover back on. Engages the plunger. So here we are. New starter, right? We just rebuilt it. It engages fine. When it spins, it's good. And then it's a little sticky. I'll probably put some WD-40 on it. And if it grinds, it grinds. I don't use the electric start too much. Like I said, I don't have a battery right now. Okay, so I'm just gonna put the manual start back on. These 3 bolts. Fuel line. Prime it. All right, here we go. So it should be good now. I'm gonna give it a little a little punch of fuel again. Cool. I don't have any water running to it, so I don't want to run it for very long, but we have a running outboard motor.
Woo, 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 woo.
And that's how you fix one. Bring it back from the dead. Okay, thanks for watching my outboard boat motor rebuild project. I'm going to be doing a lot more projects like this. So I've got a boat that I'm fixing, and if you like this kind of stuff, just like, subscribe, comment below, and I'll see you on the next project.